What is going on, everyone? Gamers Goon here today, and today we will be giving a complete preview of the upcoming Fighting Illini 2025-2026 season. We are going to talk the players, we are going to talk the schedule, we're going to do it all, and I'm not going to lie, put a lot of work into this video, but we will be doing an Oregon one at some point before the season. I don't know what day exactly. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be probably the next day. It's going to probably be a week or two before we get that video out. But we got the Illini to talk about, as you know, my two teams, Illinois and my alma mater, Oregon. Brett Bielema, though, he will lead this year's version of the Illini after finishing off last year 9-3 with an exciting cap off of the season by beating South Carolina. Obviously, we know Brett Bielema did a little bit of trolling to Shane Beamer, and the Illini won the Citrus Bowl. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is this the same Illini? Yes. For the most part, yes. There's a lot of key pieces that are back, but two big names, one on each side of the ball that you will miss with this year's team. Pat Bryant, obviously the receiver that is now on the Broncos, and Seth Coleman, who I believe got invited to a camp in the NFL. But both of those guys now on to their professional careers. They will not be on this year's Illinois football team. So we had to hit the transfer portal. We had to turn the page on it. We had to find replacements. And we have a couple guys here on this team that we're going to go down in order based offense and then defense. We have a few transfers that are probably going to be starters. So, I mean, this is a list of probably projected starters. We will talk a bit about other players as well that could impact the team this season. But for the most part, it's going to be about starters. So, when we talk about this Illinois team, I think the biggest headline and the biggest core piece remaining here from last year's team and the key to a successful season this year, first we have to talk about senior quarterback Luke Altmyer. Luke he was exceptional last year. He did have a slight down year. He went from 64.8 in the 2023 season to 60.8 completion percentage in the 2024 season. However, everywhere else were career highs. Only 6 interceptions thrown, 22 touchdowns, 2,717 yards. In my opinion, it was his best collegiate career last year. Came in, proved he could be the QB1, and it looks to be probably one of the top 3 or 4 QBs in the Big Ten this season. I expect Luke to make yet another jump than what he did last year. I think, avoiding injury or anything, we are looking at a stat line slightly better than last year, probably still in that 60 to 65% completion range, but I do believe that Bielema will trust him more, let him throw the rock more, and I'm going to give him a interesting stat line prediction of around 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. I think that's pretty fair. I do think we saw him limit turnovers last year a little bit. I think he'll still show some more growth and maybe limit a turnover, one more turnover or something. I don't know. And I do think you can see a couple more touchdowns. I know he doesn't have the high caliber Zachary Franklin and Pat Bryant, but he does have some good receivers. So this would be the spot, like if we were doing this video last year, where we'd be talking about the receiver one and we'd be saying, hey, it's Pat Bryant. Well, he's on the Broncos, and we need a new number one on the team, and I do think the Illini found one. We got Hudson Clement, the junior from West Virginia. He is coming off of a 50-plus grab season, 700-plus yards, and he is 6'1". Pat is 6'2", so slightly shorter than Pat Bryant. But this is a guy that comes in as probably the most experienced pass catcher on this roster. He's going to be the guy that you look at as if there's anybody on this team, and I'm not saying anybody will fill Pat Bryant's shoes, because obviously he went to the NFL. He was a really good player. We've seen him develop every single year that he's been on the Illinois roster. Clement is probably the closest thing to be able to be that number one on this roster. So keep an eye out for Hudson Clement. But let's keep it with the transfer receivers here for yet one more guy. We only got one more transfer receiver, but he's a guy I'm kind of optimistically hopeful for. Not a lot of people think he's going to do much. He's right now scheduled to be a backup according to a lot of the predictions on what the starting lineup's going to be. But I think he is a guy that has a lot of talent, a guy that could kind of follow a Hank Beatty situation and kind of shine in a limited role, and that's Ball State transfer Justin Bowick. He is coming off of an injury-filled year last season. He only played 4 games, but in those 4 games, he put up 20 receptions, 383 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I ain't saying that what he did last year is going to fully translate to Illinois. There's a competition jump, I know. But even if there's a slight decline there, this is a guy that if he can stay on a maybe not as many yards, because I think it's about 95 yards a game on average if you average it out. Maybe he can get to 80. He's close to a 1,000-yard receiver if he can do that at Illinois. Is he going to be called upon on that role? No. Probably not going to see that. But if he is a guy that can crack the lineup and break through, it seems like he's a guy that once he gets the ball in his hands, he's going to get some yak. He's definitely going to get some yak, and you're going to have a guy here in Justin Bowick that could be kind of a wild card for this receiver room. Next, we got to get to the group of returnees. I'm going to be honest, they all have their own good qualities of each one of them, but I don't know really where the separation becomes within them. We have Malik Elzy, Colin Dixon, Alex Kapka-Jones, and Hank Beatty, who have all had time last season and kind of getting involved in the offense, with Colin Dixon and Hank Beatty really being the 2 biggest involved players in limited roles, but they both had over 200 yards last year. I expect them both to pretty much be what they were last year, if not take on a bigger role. You look at Malik Elzy, and he is a guy that was a 4-star recruit out of Chicago, and a lot of Illinois fans kind of had a lot of hope and a lot of excitement when he got recruited. Is he able to maybe take on a bigger role? You look at Alex Kapka-Jones. He was in a very small role last season, but he was a guy that was gaining some buzz. And then you look at another guy we haven't mentioned yet, Iowa Central Community College transfer, Mario Sanders, who didn't get time last year, but he's coming from that community college realm. What can you get out of a guy like that? And then you got the freshman Braden Trimble, who a lot of people should be excited about. I don't know if he'll necessarily get on the field this year. I do think it's a deep room. I think that there's a few guys in that room that could be interesting watches, but either way, it seems like there's a good receiver competition brewing. And if I had to pick the 3 most likely starters for this group, I would say it's Hudson Clement at receiver 1. Tank your pick here. Malik Elzy and Hank Beatty I would have as 2 and 3. I think Colin Dixon will definitely get in the mix, but I do think he'll probably be the 4th receiver on this team. I do think Malik Elzy, this is his year. This is the year. If Malik Elzy is going to have the year, it's this year. I'm really hoping that it works out. I've been very high on Malik Elzy. I was talking about a lot of Illinois fans were hyped for him and his recruitment. I'm one of those fans. Let's see if Malik Elzy can do it this season. He's going to have a chance to step in and be a very valuable weapon at the receiver 2, maybe receiver 3. I don't know who's going to be the receiver 2, but we have a couple names in the mix there for receiver 2, receiver 3 at the moment. And I wouldn't even be so shocked. I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't be so shocked if Kapka-Jones maybe slides in there as well as a guy competing for that 4th spot. So we do have a lot of uncertainty, not necessarily things that I'm shying away from at the receiver position. I like a lot of those players, but we kind of had some uncertainty of who's going to be the guy to step up. Well, I got some good news for you if you're an Illini fan, and that is that the offensive line is pretty much the same. 4 seniors are going to be anchoring it down. Left tackle J.C. Davis, left guard Josh Geske, center Josh Kreutz, and right tackle Melvin Priestley. And believe it or not, the baby of the group is junior. Yes, the baby of the group is a junior, Brandon Henderson. And all 5 of those guys I trust. I fully believe that this group right here is one of, if not the best starting offensive lines in the Big Ten, maybe even the country. Lots of talents, lots of experience. J.C. Davis, a potential NFL guy, a bunch of potential NFL guys. I think Melvin Priestley's very underrated. Kreutz is a potential NFL guy. Gesky, I think, has a lot of talent as well. Brandon Henderson, once again, the baby of the group, but I think there's a lot of talent there as well. I think it's going to be a good offensive line. The depth is a little dicey with a couple returnees, most experienced being Desmond Schuster, and 2 transfers that I don't know too much about, and Aiden Napick and TJ McMillan. If one of the big guys up front do go down, the good news is we have one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, and Brett Bielema. Yes, I know that he's not the offensive line coach, but one of the best offensive line head coaches. He really knows, if there's a head coach that knows offensive linemen, it's him. I trust him to find the replacement with the options that he's given. I do expect there to be a slight dip in production if you do have to go for maybe a J.C. Davis into one of the transfers, or Desmond Schuster, whomever. I do expect there to be a slight drop-off because that's how good the starting offensive line is. But still, I expect it to be a good group, even if that does happen. And I am sorry, but we got to talk about the tight ends, and it's the big 2, man. Last year, Tanner Arkin had a good year. He had a good year. Not a huge pass-catching tight end. Barely got over 100. Was a little bit of a red zone threat. Got 3 touchdowns. He's the lead tight end from last year. He's a good blocker. Arkin, he is going to play a lot of snaps. But the one I'm excited for is getting what we missed out on last year. Cole Rusk. He is a guy that in one season at Murray State had over 500 yards. Rusk will be the lead receiving tight end of this group. Meanwhile, Arkin will be the blocking one, and potentially also a red zone threat still, but Rusk is also really big. The thing I'm excited about Rusk is this adds another weapon to Luke Altmaier's arsenal, because this could be one of the leading pass catchers, not only at the tight end position for this team, but of all positional players. He could be, I wouldn't be shocked if Hudson Clement had let's say Hudson Clement had 70 receptions this season. I wouldn't be shocked if Cole Rusk had maybe 50. I think Cole Rusk could easily be that second guy. I think he's a really talented pass-catching tight end, and he's also a guy that I think will score some touchdowns. So I'm excited for what Cole Rusk can bring to this team. But last and certainly not least with the offense, we have a good and deep running back room. You name it, I think we got it. Yes, we lost Josh McCray to Georgia, but guess what? We returned junior Aiden Lafrey, who was 20 yards behind. He finished the year with 589 yards. McCray was at 609. 20 yards behind from Josh McCray last year. I figured, hey, the HB1 duties, they're probably Aiden Lafrey's to lose. However, you got another guy in Caden Fegan, who is a very powerful running back. He is a guy that will be a goal line back. I look at Josh McCray having 10 touchdowns last year. Fegan, I think, will see a jump in his touchdowns. I think he's a guy that could get maybe 10-plus touchdowns next year, get in the goal line, hand it off to Fegan. And then you got another little change of pace running back in Khalil Valentine, who I am a big fan of. And speedster, very agile, hard to take down. Like I said, Aiden finished at 589. Probably going to get into the 700s this year if I had to guess. Fegan with only 3 touchdowns and 306 last year. I do think the TDs will go to 10+, and maybe in that 400 to 500 yard range. And Valentine is coming off the year with the 212 yards, which I do expect to be utilized kind of more, because you do lose all of the Josh McCray touches. So I do think he'll be utilized more, and I think with kind of his explosion, he doesn't necessarily need 100 touches to get there. He could maybe do it with 60, 70 touches. I think he get to the 400-yard mark. The thing that I love the most about this running back room, though, is that every single guy I just named is a guy that, if need be, I would be happy as the starting running back. If there's a game where Aiden goes down with injury, I'm fine with Caden Fegan being the starting running back. If there's a game that Caden Fegan is down and they need to go Khalil Valentine, I'm glad with that. That's not even to mention the depth that we have at the position. We have 2 3-stars, John Forster and Cedric Weiss. Both guys could come in and establish roles. I think it would be a limited role, kind of like what we saw Khalil Valentine. Not too many touches, but he could maybe get involved. And I think the one that it would be more likely for is Forster as a pass catcher. So John Forster is a potential guy to look at if you're looking for freshmen that could come in and impact the team offensively. Then we could take a look at the defense. This is where you're going to start to see a little bit of the impact of players leaving. Starting defensive line seems to be pretty much all new. 3 big-time transfers, perhaps 4 if you add in 3 big-time defensive line transfers. Perhaps 4 with a rotating one in there, as well as a linebacker. So at left end, we have a name that a lot of Big Ten fans might be familiar with James Thompson Jr. He played at Wisconsin. Not a big sack guy. It'll be interesting to see him as he has 2 seasons remaining. My bad. He's not the one with 2 seasons remaining. He has 2 seasons of 5 or more tackles for losses, but he only played 1 game last season due to injury. He was a starter for the majority of his time at Wisconsin. But guess what? We ain't done there. He'll not be alone because junior defensive tackle Kurt Neal will, again, not bringing insane sack numbers, and I don't want you to think that means you're bad, but the consistency of being a starter, tackle for losses, a former 4-star that you would assume would look better with better talent around him. Kurt Neal, the defensive tackle, figures to be a starter for the Illini. Did you think we're done? Did you think we're done for the Wisconsin guys? Senior outside linebacker Leon Lowry is joining them as well. And this is another guy posted 3.5 sacks while at Syracuse in 2023, but played at Wisconsin last year. Lots of experience. While not from Illinois, they got a lot of experience, a lot of Big Ten experience coming in. And guess what? I know Lowry was not an outside linebacker, but it felt right to mention him there. We got one more transfer on this defensive line that's going to be a starter, and that's Tomoa Derbaje. This guy should be a fan favorite. I'm going to be honest. He should be a fan favorite. He played his freshman year before taking a red shirt. He got 3.5 sacks as a red-shirted freshman at West Virginia. He went to Florida State last year, but only played 4 games, and he did have a sack in one of those games. This is a guy that's never been on a good defensive line. A guy that got 3.5 sacks, got the call to move the SEC. This is a guy that on a group that is good, and a group like Illinois that has Gabe Yakus and a lot of talented guys here in Kurt Neal and Leon Lowry and all these guys that could come in and perhaps make things difficult on an opposing offensive line. This is a guy that could get 5. I think he could get 5 sacks. I really do think that Derbaje is going to be a very big piece for this team. And then you got senior Carter Hewitt, another option at the right end position, but he is making a leap from Northern Iowa to Illinois and only had 4.5 tackles for loss and 1 sack last year. So the numbers kind of favor the other guys, but we'll see if Carter Hewitt can get in the mix. Now that we knocked off the new faces, we got to talk about who is back. Well, guess what? The whole secondary that was ball hawks last year, Caleb Patterson, Xavier Scott, Miles Scott, Torrey Cox, Matthew Bailey, all names you should be familiar with if you're an Illinois fan. They don't need any introduction. We got them back. We got their experience. We got their talent. It's all back. Guess what? We still got the depth of Jaheim Clark, Sabur Kareem, Mac Resitich, Tyler Strain, who at times has been a starter, and Tyson Rooks, who all could step in at a moment's notice. Keep in mind that even after them, you have Vernon Woodward, who I believe is coming off his redshirt freshman year, Tanner Heckel, and even the freshman Taiwan Cox and Exani Scott, both guys that I believe are brothers of Torrey Cox and Xavier Scott. Or maybe Exani is Miles Scott's brother. I think they're brothers of the players. Could be guys that are probably on the special teams, if anything, early on. It's just a deep room to get involved in as a freshman. But I talked about that, right? I talked about this really good corner room. Guess what? We're not done because I really like the linebacking room as well. I really enjoy this linebacking room because guess what? We have Gabe Yakus. Also, the guy right here, Gabe Yakus. This guy's one of my favorite Illinois players of the last 5-10 years. Like, this guy is special, I'm telling you. I think he's one of the best defensive ends in the country. This is his last year at Illinois. I expect big things. I remember him playing his first game at Illinois. Just looked like a man amongst boys as a freshman. This dude is a beast. He is a beast. He looks like the NFL kind of player. He's a guy that at times has shown flashes of why he can be an NFL player. I think if he can put together a full season of showing it, he could be as high as a first-round pick. That is the kind of talent this guy has. Held that belief since we not drafted him, since he started playing for us. Then after that, you get Kenenna Odeluga, you get James Kreutz, Alec Bryant, JoJo Hayden, Dylan Rosiak, Malachi Hood, Leon Lowry, who we already talked about, Joe Barna, Daniel Brown, and even Grant Bierman, who are all guys that I think will at least get rotational time within this linebacking group, and all guys that I really like what they can bring. Alec Bryant has obviously been around for some time at Illinois. James Kreutz had a good year. Lowry, obviously, we kind of talk about what he could bring. Malachi Hood's been a staple. As one of the depth pieces, Dylan Rosiak. Joe Barna, I thought, played solid when he got opportunities. Kenenna Odeluga has another guy that has been on the team. I think really you got a good, strong linebacking core of guys that, once again, in a moment's notice, if you need a depth guy, they have it. They have the depth. I don't know if the star power is necessarily in that room, other than Gabe, but it's a good room. It's a good room of linebackers. I think the special teams also pretty solid. You got David Alano, who will hit some deep kicks. Can't wait for that. And then you got new, I believe, transfer punter, Keelan Crimmins, who averaged 45 yards a punt last year, and his longest was 64 yards. So that is the team breakdown. Guys that I kind of expect to have significant roles early on, and hopefully barring any injury. You don't ever want to have anybody get injured, but all guys that I think will have some sort of impact at some point this season. Now we get into the schedule breakdown, and I have to bring up my phone for the schedule. First game of the season, August 29th, we play Western Illinois at home. Western Illinois, I'm going to be honest, this is a showcase game. This is a game where you get in your freshman, John Forster, you get in any freshman. This is a game for Braden Trimble to get in. This is a game for whomever to get in, right? This is not a game where you want Luke Altmaier playing. Hey, put Newton's brother. Put Newton's brother at QB in this game after Altmaier scores a quick 21 on him. This is not a game you want to... This is a tough game. Not because it's a tough game, but I don't want my guys getting injured here. You should beat Western Illinois with your third strings. Let's be honest. Next, September 6th, we got Duke at Duke. This one will be a slightly trickier game. I do like the odds of beating them. But this is a team that I believe has Darian Mensah, who is their new star quarterback. He's one of the top quarterback transfers this season. Slightly tricky there. You're going to have to deal with that, but I don't think that Duke is the team that we should be too concerned about. I think it could be a similar situation to Kansas last year, where on paper, going into the season, it's like, yeah, they're playing Duke. But once you play them, you're like, dang, man, that wasn't all it was talked up to be. So I think you win that game. September 13th, you play Western Michigan. That's yet another game where you hope Luke Altmaier's not playing in the second half. You hope that you can rotate a lot. That's another game you expect to easily win. Some of those schools make things difficult, keep it close, keep the pace slow. let's just hope that we just get out there and get Luke and all of them out by the end of the first half. And then our first test of the season is on September 20th. Indiana, ranked Indiana, obviously. Curt Cignetti had them in the playoffs last year. This is one of the bigger games for Illinois this season. I don't think Indiana's as great. I still had them ranked in my top 25. I think that it's a situation of them needing to prove it. Indiana, they're ranked like a team that should beat Illinois. The problem is, do we really know what to expect out of Indiana? That is going to be a key game to figure out what to expect out of Illinois, in my opinion. If Illinois goes in, handles business against Indiana, yeah, you're looking at probably a one-loss team. That's crazy, right? Yeah, I just said that. So I'm going to go with the win over Indiana. The 27th, September 27th, is against USC. This is at home against USC, and I do like that. USC, I think, is a tricky game. I think USC might have a bounce-back kind of year. Didn't have a great year last year. But you play them at home. I'm going to give Illinois the edge there as well. Purdue, as much as I think Purdue is not a great football school, they're going to make things difficult. They always do. We were significantly better, and they kept it close last year. Made it like, why is Illinois even allowing them in this game? Purdue's going to make it like that. I already know they will. That's going to be one of the games where I'm trying to pull my hair out. But it's going to be a win. Then October 11th is the big one. October 11th tells you for sure, is this Illinois team a team that could make a run, or is it just beneficiaries of a slightly easy schedule, probably make a playoffs? But this is kind of where you separate yourselves from the pack. October 11th, Ohio State at home. The big at-home game against Ohio State. As much as I'm a homer and I want to pick them to win, I picked them to win in some tricky games already. Ohio State's a different beast. I can't have Illinois beating Ohio State until I see Illinois do it. It's one of those situations where I got to see it to believe it. I have Ohio State beating Illinois. Washington, it depends which Washington you get, right? Washington, a solid team. They can beat some teams. They can lose to some teams. Last year wasn't a very good year for them. Team that could pull off an upset, it is in Washington. So they do have that advantage. I think, once again, if they beat Ohio State somehow, some way, they're going to lose to Washington. It's just the typical, letdown game. If they beat Ohio State, or if they lose to Ohio State, I think they beat Washington. I think it's kind of dependent on the Ohio State results. So we're going to say they beat Washington on the road. Rutgers, if Rutgers beats us, man, I'd be shocked. I think even, this is a home game, but I don't think Rutgers is beating us. I don't. I think Illinois wins that. Maryland, it's going to be a tricky one. Maryland always gives us a fight. I think you still win. It's a home game. Wisconsin on the road in Wisconsin. Going to be interesting to see what Wisconsin brings this year. They're kind of another team that just, you never truly know what they're going to be. I'm going to take Illinois in a close one there. And then Northwestern at home, it's a big win. It's a big one. I guarantee it's a big one. So we do have a couple games, Wisconsin, Washington, USC, Indiana, that I think could go either way. Everyone else, though, I think you get off scot-free. I think you do. Ohio State's the one that you got to go prove it, though. That's the same thing I said about Indiana in the top 25 video. You got to prove it. You got to play talent to be respected like you have the talent, right? I think Luke Altmaier is great. I think Gabe Jacas is great. I think this team has the potential to be great, but you got to go prove it against Ohio State. That's the kind of season we're in if you're an Illinois fan. High hopes. Believe me, college football playoffs is the hopes. But you've got to prove it. And you know where you can prove it? You can prove it against Ohio State. You can prove it against Ohio State. And that goes out for anybody that's trying to make the playoffs. Prove it against Ohio State. Prove it against the national champions. If you do that, I'm not going to question you. Anyways, thank you for watching. I will see you all next time.